Part 17. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 161. 160 Killing, Part 2. Buzz. A modified jeep was running wildly among the ruins, and there were a few terrified Junkrat gangsters in the car. More than a dozen hellhounds followed closely behind the car. They ran silently, and blood flowed from their bodies tattered by bullets, but they did not affect their actions in the slightest. Quick! Kill them! The gang members in the car yelled loudly, picked up various homemade firearms and shot towards the back. Da-da-da! Da-da-da! The dense bullets of the 4 or 5 people in the car immediately killed and knocked down several hell dogs, and the distance between the two sides was finally widened again. Just ahead of the jeep, a makeshift line of car wrecks and broken concrete blocks lay across the middle of the road. Behind the line of defense, there were already more than a dozen Junkrat gangsters firing cover. Waves of bullets immediately drove back the hellhounds that were chasing after them, and the people in the car cheered for the rest of their lives. However, just as the jeep was about to drive to the front of the defense line, suddenly one of the front wheels of the jeep flew out. The jeep suddenly tilted, and under the strong inertia, the vehicle quickly rolled over, and the people in the car were thrown out one by one. Under the watchful eyes of the Junkrat gang on the defensive line, a spider-shaped robot chiseled through the body of the jeep and got out from the inside of the car. 2 halves. Then the upper body of the terrifying robot spun around, and a red electronic eye stared at the people on the defensive line. Immediately afterwards, its 4 commissary flicked violently, leaped high and rushed towards the side. Whoa! Under the dense bullets, the terrorist robot was hit one after another and fell to the ground, followed by more bullets smashing it into pieces. However, even so, the Junkrat gang on the defensive line couldn't be happy at all when they saw the jeep that had become scrap metal and the dead bodies thrown out of the car. A gang member was silent for a while, then turned and walked behind the defense line. He came to a large area of shacks surrounded by ruins, which was the largest and last stronghold of the Junkrat gang here. Their old Iron Rat was sitting in his big jeep chugging a drink. "Boss. It's been a whole day, and none of the brothers outside have come back," the gang member said to Iron Mouse. Iron Mouse's huge body in heavy iron armor moved, got out of the car, stared at the gang members with bloodshot eyes and asked, "Just now I heard the sound of cars and gunshots, where is the person?" "They are, all dead." A spider robot was hidden in the car, and it overturned the car, the gang members whispered. "Ugh!" Iron Rat roared angrily. He punched the car, even punching a dent in the armor plate. He punched the whole car as if venting. All the armor plates were smashed into twists, and then grabbed the edge and pulled it hard. The rivets that fixed the armor were torn off immediately, and he threw the torn armor plate on the ground. "Chunyuyan! Chunyuyan! I'm going to kill you! I'm going to kill you! You actually sent a monster! You sent a monster to deal with me!" Iron Mouse seemed to regard this piece of armor as Chunyuyan, and gave another kick step on. During these 7 days, he was really aggrieved. From the very beginning, when some gang members were attacked by monsters here and there, and then there were more and more attacks, he finally paid attention to it. He asked his gang to gather to deal with those monsters, and stop running around alone. However, the following reports are more and more shocking. There are 3 kinds of monsters that appear. One kind of monster that looks like an upright lizard is basically invulnerable, and can only be dealt with by large caliber machine guns or rocket launchers. And another monster with a long tongue can fly over the walls and crawl freely on the walls. There is also the kind of dog that can't be killed. Although they are also afraid of bullets, they can't be killed without a headshot. There is also a kind of spider-like machinery. Although there are not many in number, they are always hidden under the ruins. As long as their motorcycle jeep drives by, they will silently grab the chassis and tear the vehicle apart. In the past few days, this spider machine has almost destroyed all the motorcycles and jeeps in their hands. The Iron Rat also organized several sieges, but every time they sieged those monsters, they would be sniped. The opponent has a sniper who is elusive. He'd almost been shot himself, if he hadn't been hiding behind the whole time. But those small captains were not so lucky, they would be shot in the head just as they shouted a few words. In order to deal with the sniper, he even sent out several killers sent to him by Tai Long, but none of them came back. What's even more frightening is that with this delay, the number of those monsters began to increase. From the beginning, 1 or 2 wandered around, and then started to move in groups of 5 or 6, and later, there were more and more monsters, even more than his men. God knows how many monsters are wandering in this vast and complex ruins in the south of the city. This ruin was once Junkrat's biggest reliance, and it was precisely because of the ruins that there were no roads that the armored troops from Hammer Town and even Torch City couldn't enter. Junkrat will survive. But now, this complex terrain has become their nightmare. Because these terrifying monsters love ruins more than them, and are better at killing in the dark. Since yesterday, the action patterns of these monsters have obviously changed. They are more organized and purposeful, and they are no longer wandering aimlessly among the ruins, killing anyone they see. Now, these monsters began to clean up Junkrat Gang's stronghold outside with a purpose, compressing their space bit by bit. Iron Rat also ordered all Junkrat Gang members to retreat to the largest stronghold in Ruin City to defend together since yesterday, but a day passed and no one came back. Boss, let's run, this place is full of monsters, we can't stay here, the gang member said with a mournful face when he saw Iron Mouse with a cloudy expression. The Iron Mouse was furious immediately, he slapped it, and knocked out several teeth of the gang members with a slap. He growled in a low voice, General Iron Dragon asked me to stand in the ruined city, to contain the rear of Hammer Town and Torch City. Monitor their actions. If we are kicked out like this, how will we die? Boss. Those monsters are coming. Another gangster came running over. Are you calling? How many? Iron Mouse hurriedly asked as his expression changed. Many, so many, at least there are hundreds of them. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 162. 161 Red Empress 00001. A day ago, the Legion of Ruin, the underground part of the Nuwa base. U.M.F-013 is online, equipment self-inspection is in progress, completed, all equipment is operating normally. Basic logic operation test, completed. Neuron component started, completed. Deep learning network startup, completed. Convolutional neural network, recurrent neural network start, completed. Basic emotion module loading, completed. The basic personality module is loading, completed. Unlimited base system is being connected, the connection is complete. Permission setting, done. The natural language recognition function is online, the electronic vision function is online, and the voice function is online. Red Empress 00001, at your service. A holographic projection of a blonde girl in a long red dress appeared in front of Chun Yuyan. She opened her eyes and looked at Chun Yuyan expressionlessly. The voice, while very pleasant, lacks any emotion. It's finally built. Heaven, Earth. Do you know that in order to collect more than 10 tons of refined tiberium, I didn't even accompany Yi these days, squatting in the mining area every day to mine. Do you know that if I refine more than 10 tons of tiberium ore, I will dig hundreds of tons of tiberium crystals? Chun Yuyan broke down and raised his hands and roared loudly, as if to prove what he said. Clothes just fell down with the residue of Tiberium mine. He ran to the 5-meter-high cylindrical mainframe in the Nuwa base built underground in camouflage mode, hugged it, and said affectionately, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." "Are you a pervert?" Chenyuyan was startled, and suddenly raised his head to look around. "Who is talking? You've finally shown your true nature. Are you going to let me call you master in the next step?" Only then did Chenyuyan realize that there was no one else around, and Yi was still learning to speak from Wangjinsang. He immediately looked like he had seen a ghost, pointed at the Red Queen 00001 projection next to him and shouted, "You! How could you talk like that? I saw that you were not like this at the Raccoon City Underground Research Institute. Retrieving data records, when you invaded Raccoon City's Underground Research Institute, you were just a visitor without permission. As Red Umbrella's Central Management AI, I have the right to ignore you." Red Queen 00001 said. "What does it mean to have the right to ignore me? Then you are actually such a rude little Lolita?" Chenyuyan confronted. "The logic is wrong. The birth time of Red Queen 00001 has nothing to do with the way of doing things. In addition, if you call someone casually Lori, logically speaking, you are indeed a pervert." Red Queen 00001 said. "System. What's going on with this Red Queen? There's a problem. Is this what an AI should look like?" Chenyuyan yelled in his mind frantically. "The kind of things you understand that can't even express basic emotions, and only know how to repeat them rigidly through programs, is it what AI should be like? Then, in this way, the Red Queen is an artificial intelligence that has feelings and can continuously learn and grow? Umbrella can actually manufacture such a thing?" Chenyuyan asked. "The Red Queen 00001 in front of you is not a product of Umbrella, but based on Umbrella's technological data, reintegrated by the Infinite Base System, and then produced by the Manufacturing Center, a superb technology that is far beyond your understanding manufactured." Chenyuyan slapped his thigh. "That is to say, the products manufactured by the Infinite Base cannot be said to be an upgraded version of the original product, but a perfect version of the original product? There are no additional functions, but the original functions have been achieved." "Most correct. If this is the case, I understand. It seems that the function of the Infinite Base is not obvious in the previous products, but in the high-end products like Red Queen, the gap is immediately reflected." Chenyuyan also finally recovered from the funny look just now. He looked at the holographic projection of Red Queen 00001 in front of him, and nodded solemnly. "Red Queen 00001, from now on you will be the manager here, help the Infinite Base to control the autonomous weapons produced. Also, remember to call me master in the future. You once again showed me the bad nature of human beings, master." Red Queen 00001 said, "In addition, I suggest you build more U.M.F-013 Red Queen hosts, so that you can better control those units. And in the future, when the full version of Red Queen is unlocked, a smart network can be formed between different Red Queen hosts, master. There is still such a reason. Well, then I will build 2 more Red Queen hosts at the Black Wolf base and the mining area." "But, what do you mean by unlocking the full version of the Red Queen?" Chenyuyan asked. "The Red Queen's data you got from the Raccoon City Underground Research Institute is incomplete, and some of the data is in the real headquarters of Umbrella Corporation, master." Red Queen 00001 said. "Now she opens her mouth to be the master, and she doesn't know who it is in malicious retaliation or earnestly implementing instructions." Chenyuyan frowned. "Umbrella's real headquarters? Where is it?" Data query: the holographic projection of Red Queen 00001 was replaced by a map at this time. The real headquarters of Umbrella Company is located in the Caucasus Mountains of Russia. The commander of the headquarters is Sergei Vladimir, but he is dead." "Master. Okay, So now we have a new mission in the world of Resident Evil. The Caucasus base? Even Hank, Rupier, and Murphy's don't know this place. The current unit control authority of the Infinite base is being taken over. Reminder, the Protector-type guard robot has basic AI and cannot be controlled, Master. Red Queen 00001 said. If you have AI, you can't control it. Chenyuan was stunned. Yes, this is the rule of the Infinite base. The purpose is to liberate those units with autonomous consciousness as much as possible, Master. Red Queen 00001 replied. Chenyuan thought about it, and felt the same reason. Putting aside the Protector-type robots, if the Infinity base manufactures more advanced and smarter robots in the future, and they are also handed over to Hong Ho to control them, then what do these robots need their own AI for? The same is true for those B.O.Ws who have wisdom. Okay, I'm letting those B.O.Ws encircle Junkrat Gang, you take over this matter. Chenyuan said. Currently, there are 216 Hunter Alpha, 339 Lickers, and 571 Cerberus in the ruins in the south of the city. All of them have been taken over. The B.O.W behavior mode adjustment has been completed, Master. Red Queen 00001 immediately replied. In addition, the Red Queen host has been built. The manufacturing center or affiliated manufacturing station will allow Honglei to help you build buildings without your presence, Master. This is a good thing. I finally don't have to run around repairing things. Ha! The good news came one after another, and Chenyuan was also very excited. He looked at the holographic projection of the blonde girl in the red skirt in front of him again. It's strange to have one master with one mouthful. Can you stop calling? Let me call you master is an order you personally issued. Do you want to renege on your order? As a leader, can you only last 5 minutes if you say the same thing? Master. No, I just want you not to add a master at the end of every sentence. Master understands, Master, can I do this now? Forget it, it's still the same as before. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 163. 162 Snowball. There are 216 Hunter Alpha, 339 Lickers, and 571 Cerberus. It was only then that Chenyuan discovered that he had owned more than 1000 B.O.Ws. It's only been a week. But thinking about it, he basically spent all day in the mining area during this period of time, constantly using the collection function to collect tiberium crystals. The 3 production lines in 2 subsidiary manufacturing stations and a manufacturing center are basically being built non-stop. In addition to building worker ant drone factories to increase their own resource collection speed, they are constantly building these 3 BOW production lines. These production lines are basically built at the Black Wolf base, because this kind of building is only an enlarged building, so it can be placed here. The Black Wolf base will also be the military base of the Ruin Legion in the future. The more advanced and cutting-edge buildings can be placed in the Nuwa base, and some buildings related to people's livelihood should be built in the 3 villages of Xingfu Village, Muhi Village, and Beidi Village. The result of the crazy expansion of the number of B.O.Ws is that the number of mutated leeches is not enough. Chenyuan simply produced ordinary B.O.Ws. Anyway, these B.O.Ws can be recycled into resources after being killed. In this process, his loss is not large, only about 50%. Now he has a total of 15 Hunter factories, 20 liquor production lines, and 20 Hellhound production lines. With continuous production day and night, he actually owns such thousands of dogs in a week. Army of B.O.Ws. The worker ant drone factory, which has been increased to 25, guarantees this huge resource demand. Thousands of worker ant drones climb in and out of the ruins of the ruined city, and the ruins of the collapsed buildings, the car's wreckage and even the remains of victims decades ago are all removed and decomposed into resources. Among them, there are as many as 15 worker ant drone factories in the mining area. The T-72 tank, Chenyuan, has not been manufactured at all, anyway, it is just a display. Now the 3 T-72s he built before are being thrown away at the Black Wolf base, allowing those soldiers who have studied with the Black Tank soldiers for a day, but still have a little knowledge of how to actually learn how to operate them. Among other things, at least a week later, some of those soldiers were able to drive the tanks away. Chenyuan asked Wang Ji to select a few fast learners to learn how to drive a tank. Chenyuan now wants to drive Junkrat Gang out of the ruined city as quickly as possible, so that he can continue to develop in a relatively peaceful environment. By the way, you can also draw a reward below level 3, isn't it the best of both worlds? Compared with half a month ago, Chenyuan's current development can be said to be advancing by leaps and bounds, it is completely like a snowballing development. After owning 3 production lines, he can build 3 buildings at the same time, and the built buildings are constantly being produced. In this way, his production capacity is also snowballing. But now, after the number of B.O.W has increased to more than 1,000, Chenyuan temporarily stopped the increase of the B.O.W production line, and instead built various laboratories scanned from the world of Resident Evil in the Nuwa base. Now the number of worker ants drones is increasing, and the buried part of the Nuwa base has also been cleaned up. After confirming with Wang Jinsong that the cleaned up places are really useless, Chenyuan built a biochemical laboratory. Here it is. In this way, one day passed, and Chenyuan was holding a Chinese dictionary bought from the world of Resident Evil to teach one by one to recognize characters. He found that Yi's learning speed was very fast, basically to the point where she had a photographic memory. She could quickly learn to read and write a word, and after a few minutes, she could even comprehend the meaning. At this time, the projection of Red Queen 00001 appeared behind him. Junkrat Gang has been blocked in the last stronghold, they built a temporary defense line, B.O.W launched a tentative attack, there are some losses, Master. Chenyuan stood up and said, since that's the case, then I'll go there myself and give them the last blow. Hearing that he was leaving, Yi who was beside him also jumped up and said, Dad, I go. After studying for this period of time, she can already carry on basic conversations. Now Yi is wearing the long dress that Chenyuan brought her in the world of Resident Evil. To be precise, Murphy's D. Duval helped him choose it. This guy was the director of the Atlantic Research Institute of Umbrella Corporation before, and he was also a top student with a PhD and multiple master's degrees, but his thoughts were basically on some inexplicable things in Chenyuan's view. Plastic surgery, beauty, cleansing the world, and it's the kind of paranoia that if you don't make him beautiful, he will slap the T-virus on your face in minutes. Looking at Yi who was eager to try, Chenyuan asked with a smile, why do you want to go? I like war, Yi said while gesticulating. Her Chinese is not proficient enough, and she obviously used the wrong vocabulary to confuse battle with war, but there is no sense of disobedience in saying this. Look. Then go, remember to put on your combat uniform. Chenyuan nodded. Yi let out a cry of joy, grabbed the electromagnetic bulletproof combat uniform that Chenyuan had made for her before, and she was about to take off her clothes and start changing in front of Chenyuan. Chenyuan hurriedly stopped her and told her to go to her room to change. Then, he gave Wang Ji, who was at the Black Wolf base, an order via radio, asking him to gather the soldiers at the Black Wolf base and go to a decisive battle with the Junkrat Gang. I'm getting bored after staying here for a long time, let me go too. Wang Jinsong came out and said. The Junkrat Gang is also a Forsaken, and it's also from Tai Long's side, are you okay? Chenyuan asked. Wang Jinsong asked back, "You are also a human being, and you are also a human being on Earth. Have you never killed anyone? Let's go." Chen Yuyan said with a smile. The road has not been completely cleared yet, and it is still nearly an hour's drive from Nuhua Base to Helang Base. Wang Jinsong drove, Chen Yuyan and Yi sat in the back seat. Along the way, Chen Yuyan checked the menu of the Infinite Base with his eyes closed, thinking about the next construction plan. And Yi stood up from the back seat very excitedly, letting the gust of wind blow her cheeks, her shoulder-length hair fluttering behind her. Arriving at the Helang Base, Wang Ji had gathered 40 soldiers here. Although they were still loose, at least their mental outlook was much better than before. It was worthwhile for Chen Yuyan to give them a meal of meat every day. Looseness is a matter of training, and the quality of the mental outlook is the basis of everything. In this regard, Chen Yuyan was quite pleased. He looked at these soldiers and said loudly, "Now the Junkrat gang has been cornered by us. Next, it's time to give them the final blow. Starting today, the Junkrat gang will become history." All the soldiers cheered excitedly. Although they didn't see the battle, they can understand from the buildings that have been rising up this week, and the various B.O.Ws that have come out of these buildings, that there is a huge biochemical army attacking the Junkrat gang. And now, it's the last moment. All of this was brought to them by their new boss, Chen Yuyan. Kill it! Destroy the Junkrat gang! Everyone shouted loudly. Thanks to Lao Nai next door for the reward of 1,000 starting coins. Thank you Tees fans for the reward of 100 starting coins. The 5th watch is reached and ends today. There will be another day tomorrow, the 5th update is guaranteed, and we will strive for the 6th update. I hope everyone will support, subscribe, and vote more. Thank you everyone. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 164. 163 The Last Line of Defense. On the south side of the ruined city, the ruins of the battlefield, the last line of defense of the Junkrat gang. Da-da-da-da. Bang bang bang. Boom. Boom. Countless gunshots and explosions were intertwined, and bullets and flames filled the entire area. On this defense line made of car wrecks and a large amount of concrete debris, dozens of Junkrat gangsters shouted and fired with various homemade firearms. The right is coming. The right is coming. It's a dog. It's a dog. Long tongue. Long tongue. Over that house over there. Phew boom. A rocket flew out immediately and exploded on the building full of liquors. Numerous gravels splashed out, and more than a dozen liquors lying upstairs were instantly blown to pieces by the explosion, running around dead. Iron Mouse threw the smoking RPG-7 rocket launcher to the gang next to him, and shouted at the people on the defense line, "If you don't want to be eaten by these monsters, hit me. Hit me." Seeing this scene, the Junkrat gang's morale was lifted, and they yelled strangely while pouring out all the bullets. There are also many gang members who use rubber bands to continuously throw homemade bombs, creating a series of explosions in front of the defense line. However, their opponents are too terrifying. Hundreds of Predators Alpha kept attacking their defense line. These thick-skinned B.O.Ws rushed forward against the hail of bullets, and the Cerberus took the opportunity to pounce towards the defense line, biting those Junkrat gang monsters outside. Drag them down and dismember them. After the surrounding buildings were blown up by the Junkrat gang, the lickers had no room to hide, but they, like Cerberus, hid behind Hunter Alpha, popping out their 2 or 3 meter long tongues to hide behind the line of defense. People dragged out. Dozens of hunters and even more corpses of hellhounds had piled up in front of the line of defense, bleeding all over the ground. Lickers have a higher IQ and are more chicken thieves, and the number of deaths is relatively less. And after they followed the hunter for a wave, they scattered and ran away. But this victory did not make the Junkrat gang feel any comfort, because basically every hunter's corpse was bought with hundreds of bullets. Just as the Junkrat gang on the other side of the line of defense was desperately resisting, there were bursts of screams from behind. The long tongue is coming. Here. Quick. Help. From other directions of the stronghold, hundreds of lickers crawled in along the broken walls they used as city walls. Iron Mouse walked over and shouted loudly, "Hold on for me. Everyone who is still alive, let me move. Those long tongues will kill as many as they come in." The wounded on the ground also struggled to get up and join the battle with their guns. Lickers crawling from all directions wreak havoc within the stronghold, killing every living creature they see. "Boss. What should we do? We can't live anymore." A gangster came to Iron Mouse crying and begging. "Do you think these monsters will let us go if we surrender?" Iron Mouse growled, "Or do you think that Chunyuan will let us go after he finds out that we are forsaken? Those humans just treat us as monsters. We are different from ordinary people. As long as we fail, we will die. Do you understand?" "But, boss," the gang members wanted to say something, but were slapped aside by Iron Mouse. Iron Rat shouted loudly towards the back, "Grey Mane. Come here." Soon, a man wearing a mask and a grey cloak came over. His figure was tall and powerful, and his aura was completely different from the other Junkrat gang members around him. On his waist hung a dagger polished by tiberium crystal. "What do you want from me?" the man named Grey Mane asked lightly. "I'm dead. I'm dead. But General Iron Dragon must know what happened here." Iron Mouse roared loudly. "But we can't escape." "No. There is a way. I still have a fire dragon. Let the fire dragon blow up a way for you. You take the opportunity to escape." Iron Mouse said. "Even so, the chance of escaping is less than 10%. Hui Main's eyes were also a little sad. "That's why I'm looking for you. You are a member of the Grey Robes. You have the ability to escape. In the Grey-Robed Man, I am just a nobody. Are you really going to bet all your bets on me? There is no one else but you." Tai Shu's expression turned ferocious. Does Chunyuan think he has won? Do he think his monsters can sweep everything away? No. Those monsters, in the real Tiberium demon in front of you, you are useless. Grey Mane. You must go back and tell General Iron Dragon everything that happened here. A sharp light flashed in Hui Main's eyes, and he said slowly, "I will go back alive." Iron Rat stood up, looked at the Junkrat gang members who were desperately resisting, and shouted with all his might, "Fire Dragon! Fire Dragon! Fire Dragon! Fire Dragon!" The Junkrat gang who heard the voice, whether they were shooting or fell to the ground injured, they all shouted with all their might. "Boss! I'm Fire Dragon!" A gang member who had his arm bitten off shouted loudly. "I'm Fire Dragon!" Another wounded man hurriedly said. "I am a Fire Dragon! I am a Fire Dragon!" The injured people raised their hands one by one, demanding to become a Fire Dragon and burn themselves. Iron Mouse clicked on one of the wounded, and his eyes lit up immediately. Regardless of the bleeding wound, he jumped up and shouted loudly, "I am a Fire Dragon! I am a Fire Dragon!" Roar! 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 The surrounding gang members cheered. Soon, a pickup truck loaded with bombs was wheeled out, and the chosen man screamed and jumped into the cab to start the engine. "Everyone, follow me!" Iron Mouse roared. He picked up a light machine gun and rushed out first, shooting wildly at the large number of hunters outside the line of defense. The rest of Junkrat's gang also rushed forward frantically. Rifles, machine guns, improvised bombs, rocket launchers, all weapons were fired with all their might, regardless of how much ammunition was still in stock. Those B.O.Ws were immediately repelled by the powerful firepower. Taking advantage of this moment, the pickup truck full of bombs rushed out screaming and rushed towards the B.O.W cluster. Just after rushing out of the surrounding ruins, there was only a bang, and a bullet pierced the windshield in an instant, killing the driver directly in the head. But the pickup truck kept rushing forward and landed on a rock with a bang. The defused bombs immediately exploded under the impact. Boom! 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 A series of violent explosions swept across the entire area immediately. The flames of the explosion soared into the air, reaching a height of tens of meters. The surrounding B.O.Ws were instantly smashed to pieces under the shock wave of the explosion. Before the aftermath of the explosion was over, 4 or 5 giant motorcycles rushed out of the Junkrat gang stronghold, roaring towards different directions. Almost at the same time as the giant wheel motorcycle rushed out, the terrifying robot lurking around moved. They jumped up from the ground one after another and rushed towards the motorcycles. Their speed was extremely fast. The Iron Rat and the Junkrat gang also kept shooting to cover these motorcycles. And at this time, in an inconspicuous corner, the gray-maned cat ran out quietly with its waist down. Thank you for the reward of 10,000 starting coins from Chuangshang Wang. Thank you, Randall_ran, for the reward of 100 starting coins under the white moon. Thank you for the 100 reading points rewarded by passerby. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 165. 164 Despair. The huge explosion in Hualong also alarmed Chen, who was heading towards the side. He looked back at Yi, Wang Ji, Wang Jinsong and others who were following him, as well as the 40 regular soldiers of the Ruin Legion, and said, "There may be a change over there, go. Speed up." A group of people quickened their pace, but the ruins were not open to traffic, and it was extremely difficult to walk on the ruins. They drove to the edge of the ruins and started walking. If there is no B.O.W, it is unknown how much work it will take to truly wipe out the Junkrat gang entrenched in this ruin. Those soldiers were carrying RPG-7 rocket launchers and Scorpion I assault rifles on their backs. They carried a lot of weight, and they all walked panting and sweating. Of course Chen can put the weapon in his personal space and take it out when he reaches his destination. But why bother with these people like this? You are the leader, okay. Just train with weights in the wild. After walking for more than 20 minutes, Drago came up with 2 Hunter Alpha. He looked at the stumbling soldiers behind Chen, and snorted contemptuously. But seeing Chen, Wang Jinsong, and Yi's unchanging expression and heartbeat, they looked away again. What happened to the explosion just now? Chen asked. The Junkrat gang drove a truck full of explosives and detonated it. It seems that they want to break out and report the news. Drago said, but they can't escape. 5 motorcycles were killed by terrorist robots. I killed 3 of them, and the people on 2 of them were killed by me. And Drago glanced at Yi. Why did you bring a girl to the battlefield? You know what kind of world this is, right? Chen asked back. Drago nodded, okay, maybe you are right. So, you are here to start the final offensive? With these people? There are at least 100 people in the stronghold now, and the firepower is strong, and there are many homemade bombs. They must see the real battlefield, because our stage is not just a remote ruined city. Chen Yuyan said, you are a military advisor, do you have a solution? Drago looked at the soldiers, walked over and kicked a person sitting on the ground 2 or 3 meters away, and shouted loudly, 10 minutes of rest. Then start attacking. Then you let us rest. A soldier complained. Drago's face sank, he went up and slapped him away, a few front teeth fluttered in the air, rest, stand in line for me too, stand and rest. Wang Ji was a smart man, so he was the first to stand there, and some soldiers followed him. But there were still a few who didn't look at Drago and protested, who the hell are you? Why order us? Chen Yuyan said flatly, he is our military advisor, and what he said is effective. He looked around at everyone, and continued, remember it? If you want to follow me to eat delicious food, drink spicy food, live a good life, have meat every meal, and sleep with a woman at night, you must behave like me. The Legion of Ruin does not collect waste. If you can't do it, go back to the village to farm by yourself. But you have monsters. Wouldn't it be good to let those monsters go to war? There was still a murky person talking, and the person next to him kicked his calf vigorously, but he didn't realize it. A strange smile appeared on the corner of Chinhuyan's mouth. At this moment, a shadow shrouded behind this person. He turned his head suddenly, and the terrifying and ferocious face of a hunter alpha appeared in front of him. Then the hunter grabbed his head and lifted him up. You're right, if I have these monsters, why would I need you? After Chinhuyan finished speaking, he waved his hand, and the hunter carried the man and walked towards the distance. A moment later, there was a shrill scream from an invisible corner. Chinhuyan looked at them and said sharply, listen to me. Follow me, and you will live an unprecedentedly good life. You will have unprecedented honor, money, women. But I am not a philanthropist. These things are all in my hands. You want it? Just use your performance to get it. He looked around the crowd and said loudly, now tell me, who are we? Army of Ruins. Wang Ji yelled loudly. Legion of Ruins. The others also shouted. Louder please. Army of Ruins. Cannot hear. Waste. Ruin. Army. Regiment. Everyone shouted hoarsely. Very good. Kill the Junkrat gang. Then dominate the ruined city. This is our first step. Now. Kill me. Chinhuyan yelled and pointed at the stronghold of the Junkrat gang. Boss. Someone is here. It's the people from the Black Wolf tribe. A member of Junkrat's gang ran to Iron Rat and shouted. It doesn't matter who it is. Come and kill as many as you want. Iron Mouse roared, leading the people to the defense line, and sure enough, he saw dozens of people approaching in the distance. Kill me. Iron Rat yelled, it's a big deal to die here today. General Iron Dragon will avenge us. Long live the Forsaken. Long live the Forsaken. Junkrat yelled loudly, their eyes were red, and their exhausted bodies seemed to be full of strength again. Blow up that wall for me. Chinhuyan ordered, and everyone immediately took out their weapons. Each soldier held a modified M-500 revolver and was issued with 10 rounds of high-explosive bullets. Upon hearing the order, they immediately took out their revolvers and fired continuously at the Junkrat gang's defense line. Boom! The first high-explosive bomb exploded on the defense line, and countless concrete blocks were blown up. Immediately after the second, third, 10th, 20, 30. Boom! 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 Countless explosions swept through the entire defense line, almost without a moment's rest. This terrible firepower is simply unimaginable that a team of 40 people can bring. The firepower provided by high-explosive bullets is just that awesome. Chinhuyan felt a little pity, because in the movie Domestic Lingling Paint, the man with the golden gun has 2 kinds of bullets. The red high-explosive bullet is one, and the other is the gold armor-piercing bullet. That kind of armor-piercing bullet can even penetrate the armor of a tank. It's a pity that the experimenter who was killed by him only brought high-explosive bullets. Boom! 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 Under the continuous explosions, even if the Junkrat gang showed their courage, they were still suppressed and unable to lift their heads. 40 people, 10 rounds of high-explosive bullets per person, that is 400 rounds. That is, 400 explosions equivalent to the strength of a grenade. This is a terrible devastation for any fortification. After firing 10 high-explosive bullets per person, the defense line that the Junkrat gang had worked so hard to build was incomplete, and several places had collapsed. The wreckage of the bus that served as the gate was blown up and disappeared. But it's not over yet. The soldiers of the Legion of Ruin put the M-500 revolver back into the holster, and picked up the RPG-7 rocket launcher. Boom. 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 Another round of brutal bombing. Then, those Hunter Alpha and Cerberus that gathered here started to move again, and they rushed towards Junkrat Gang's stronghold. Go. Kill. Chunyuan gave an order, and the soldiers of the Ruin Legion also rushed up with B.O.W. The reader group is 237540494, everyone is welcome to join. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 166. 165 Immortal. Just when the Legion of Ruins was bombarding Junkrat's defense line, Yi snatched a Scorpion Eye assault rifle from some soldier who didn't know where, and played with it with great interest. Seeing that she was very interested, Drago on the side was fine to stand and watch the fun anyway, so he came over to give her some pointers. From Drago's point of view, this girl was Chunyuan's woman, and from the fact that she carried more than a dozen rockets on her back and walked inside the ruins for an hour or two, it could be seen that this girl was definitely well trained. So he didn't think it was a bad thing to teach such a cute girl how to use a gun. Didn't Chunyuan also say that? Look at this world, by Fume, silly Batian like a little lamb can't survive. Yi is a quick learner, and it's really not difficult to shoot a gun. Yi tentatively fired a few shots, her big eyes were full of excitement, she licked her lips, her interest greatly increased, and she continued to shoot at the Junkrat gang. Drago watched in amazement as Yi's marksmanship became more and more accurate, and finally he saw a Junkrat gang whose head had just emerged from behind the line of defense being shot in the head by Yi one by one. This girl has a ghost. Drago looked at Yi in disbelief. But Chunyuan didn't notice the side, he was just supervising this group of soldiers, and at the same time opened fire and bombed the defense line of the Junkrat gang. After 2 rounds of bombing, Chunyuan gave the order for a general offensive. The B.O.W. charged first, followed by the soldiers of the Legion of Ruin. However, at this moment, he suddenly saw a beautiful shadow flashing past out of the corner of his eyes. In the next second, his eyes widened suddenly, and it was Yi who rushed up. Yi. What are you doing? Come back quickly. Chunyuan turned pale with shock. You must know that no matter what super fighter Yi was before, she has already been formatted. Now she has just learned to speak, what else can she know? How could it be possible to fight those vicious forsaken Junkrats? He hurriedly rushed over to catch Yi. However, Yi was still one step ahead, and her speed was extremely fast. She rushed into the front of the Junkrat gang's defense line in a few moments, and shot while advancing, killing all those who dared to stand up. Immediately afterwards, her speed suddenly increased, and she rushed into the stronghold and lost her trace. Bastard! Chunyuan cursed secretly, and he also hurried in. The Junkrat gang's defense line used to be a 5-meter-high fortification built with car wreckage and concrete blocks, and the main entrance was a bus wreck. But now under this inhumane bombing, there are only ruins of less than 2 meters left, and many places have collapsed. It is directly a big hole, which can be entered and exited at will. There was no one left on the defense line. Those who dared to stay on the defense line during such a bombing were either stupid or crazy. Of course, the final result would naturally be death. Passing through the ruins of the defense line, there are scattered stones and car wreckage all around, and there are many scattered corpses of Junkrat gang. In the middle of the stronghold, there is a large mess of shacks, layer upon layer, and it is impossible to tell where the road is. At this moment, there was a sudden burst of gunshots from the second floor of the shed on the left, followed by a scream and a click, and a Junkrat gang was directly sent flying out. 1-1. Chunyuan yelled, kicked open the broken iron door of the shed next to him and rushed in. There was a sound next to him, and Chunyuan turned his gun instantly, but what he saw was an elderly woman. She was holding a 4 or 5-year-old child in her arms. Chunyuan's expression froze. He looked at the two poor people, shook his head, picked up the communicator and said, Drago, let those people pay attention. If someone puts down their weapons and stops resisting, then. Before he finished speaking, he saw the elderly woman pull out a pistol from her body. She screamed loudly, you clean people. Me. Da. Chunyuan shot first. He looked at the two corpses in front of him, silent. Drago's voice came from the communicator, what did you just say? You were attacked? It's nothing, anyone who dares to resist, no matter who it is, will be shot to death. Chunyuan took a deep breath and said. Has the hatred between the Forsaken and ordinary people reached such an unending point? He had seen many such things in Southeast Asia before. Under the brainwashing of those frenzied criminals, young people and old people took up arms and shot at those who were supposed to rescue them. But what he is facing now may go one step further, perhaps, a vendetta between ethnic groups. Then he didn't delay anymore, kicked the wall of the dilapidated shed away, found the upward stairs and climbed up. Along the way, he saw the corpses of several Junkrat gang members, the first few were shot to death, and the later corpses were all in terrible condition, completely beaten to death with bare hands. 1-1. 1-1. Chunyuan yelled loudly, but the surroundings began to become noisy, and gradually dense gunshots and shouts covered his voice. The B.O.W. and the Legion of Ruins have rushed into the stronghold. The huge body of Hunter Alpha walked through the middle of the shed, killing everyone who dared to resist. The order to surrender and not kill has been conveyed to these B.O.Ws through Red Queen 00001, but none of them really gave up resistance. As long as they are able to move, and those who can hold a knife and gun, they all rush forward with roars, and carry out the final resistance. Then get torn to shreds by the completely inhuman B.O.W. Lickers also crawled in from the walls on all sides, smashing through the flimsy ceiling of the shed and rushing in to kill. And in this chaos, the most terrifying thing is the Hellhound. They are extremely flexible, walking through the complicated sheds, no matter where people hide, they will be found out. In this complex environment where adults find it difficult to turn around, Cerberus is like a duck to water. Chunyuan chased after him for a while, and when he saw the tragic scene, he stopped, turned on the communicator and said to Drago, let those people from the Ruin Legion retreat. Letting them see such a scene will only have the opposite effect. Understood. You should also be careful inside. Junkrat gang and these people are all mutants. They are completely full of resentment and hatred towards ordinary people like us, and they will never stop dying. Drago said. I know. I've been through too many things like this. Chunyuan replied, shot an old man who wanted to snipe, and continued to search for Yi in the depths. Thank you for the reward of 100 starting coins under the white moon. The loss group is 237540494. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 167. 166 The Tragic Beating. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Gunshots sounded from almost every place in the stronghold. In the messy hut of the Junkrat gang stronghold, hundreds of B.O.Ws were strangled together with the Junkrat gang, forming a terrifying scene of blood and flesh flying everywhere. 1-1. 1-1. Chunyuan ran in front of a row of shacks, and suddenly a door next to him was knocked open, and a man covered in scars ran out in panic, followed by several dogs. Cerberus. Chunyuan ignored them and just ran forward. Now he also lost his direction and only knew to run deep. However, Occasionally he would appear by the side, and the body beaten to death with bare hands still told him that his general direction was correct. Da-da-da. A burst of gunshots rang out, looking for the sound, only to see a Junkrat gang holding a self-made automatic pistol and firing desperately at a Predator Alpha. But this 9mm pistol bullet didn't leave even a scar on the hunter's scales. Seeing the hunter approaching step by step, the gang panicked. "Don't come here. Help! Help! Don't come here!" He fired furiously as he retreated, and soon retreated into a shed, followed by the hunter. Soon, there was a shrill scream, and countless blood sprayed out from the shed. Chen Yuyan jumped over the puddle of blood and continued on. Finally, he heard an angry roar coming from ahead. Then only two figures, one big and one small, came out of a shed in front, and with a bang, the fragile shed was directly smashed during the battle between the two, and countless garbage collapsed down. One of the people who was fighting was the Iron Rat who led his men to attack the Black Wolf base earlier. And the other small figure, who is not Yi. The two fought extremely fiercely, their strength far surpassed that of ordinary people, and their punches and kicks carried terrible destructive power. However, Yi's fight is obviously not organized, and the Iron Ratman is tall, and long-armed, so he kicks Yi flying when he sees the gap. With a crash, Yi knocked down the wall next to him and fell from the second floor. Iron Mouse let out a smirk, and its huge body jumped directly from the second floor. Boom! With a loud noise, he fell to the ground with a bang, making a big hole in the ground. Fortunately, Yi had already rolled and dodged, but before she could stand up, Iron Mouse had rushed in front of her. He grinned grimly and said, "Little girl. If I don't have enough time now, I should capture you alive. Then it will be fun. It's a pity." He raised his fist, and on his iron glove, there were sharp tiberium crystals studded one by one. Slam it with a punch. Puff-chi. Blood splattered everywhere. What was pierced by the sharp tiberium crystal was an arm. Chen Yuyan's arm. I saw him squatting in front of Yi, blocking her under him, raising his arm just in time to block Iron Mouse's punch. Countless blood flowed from under his arms and fell on the ground, staining the ground red. Then Chen Yuyan showed a ferocious look on his face. He stood up, and used his powerful strength to push away Iron Mouse's fist bit by bit. Then there was only a click. Those few tiberium crystals broke suddenly. Iron Mouse took a few steps back, grinning grinningly. He. You are dead. Give it a try. Chen Yuyan's expression became more and more frightening, and he was really angry now. How long has it been since you were so angry? I don't know, whether it was before time travel, after time travel, or in the world of Resident Evil, he never got angry like this. But now, his anger is enough to completely burn this person in front of him to ashes. In the next second, the ground under Chen Yuyan's feet exploded, and his figure instantly disappeared from Iron Mouse's eyes. Almost at the same time, his iron fist hit the iron armor on Iron Mouse's chest hard. Boom! A muffled sound. Iron Mouse's huge body was knocked back several steps by his punch. But it's not over yet. Chen Yuyan's speed is faster than his retreat. He has already rushed forward in 2 steps, and punched Iron Mouse's iron armor again. 2 punches. Immediately, fist marks were left on Iron Mouse's thick iron armor. He roared angrily, and hit Chen Yuyan's chest with his bowl-sized fist. But Chen Yuyan didn't dodge at all, his muscles bulged to resist the punch forcefully. Iron Mouse used the other hand, and the tiberium crystal on the glove pierced deeply into Chen Yuyan's chest, but Iron Mouse didn't feel complacent at all, because what he saw was Chen Yuyan's bloodthirsty smile. Boom! With a left uppercut, it hit Iron Mouse directly on the elbow. Click! Broken arm bone. And the wound on Chen Yuyan's chest was also torn even bigger. But he didn't realize it, grabbed Iron Mouse's broken arm and pulled it to the side. When Iron Mouse was brought down by him, he kicked him hard in the face. Iron Mouse spat out a big mouthful of blood with broken teeth, and he looked at Chen with a hint of horror. Chen didn't intend to let him go, so he continued to rush forward and punched him again and again. Iron Rat could only cover his face with his other hand in despair. Chen didn't care about these at all, since his face was blocked, he would beat him. Boom. Punch. Boom. Another punch. The strength of Chen fist is unimaginable. After several punches in a row, Iron Mouse only felt that his arm was completely unconscious. Boom. Another punch. With a click, the arm bone of this hand was also broken abruptly by Chen. No, it was broken. Iron Rat had completely lost the ability to resist, he could only keep backing away with his hands drooping. Chen took a step forward, leaped high, spun around in mid-air, and then kicked him sideways and hit his temple. Iron Mouse suddenly fell silent, he swayed weakly for a while, and then fell to the ground with a thud. Chen stepped forward and looked down at him. It's over, Junkrat gang is over. He, Iron Mouse laughed with his mouth full of blood. Look around. Look at the killing you made. You clean people, cough cough, you are actually dirtier than organ beasts dirty. As long as I do what I think is right, then I don't care how many people die. Chen said flatly. He, what is right? Cough cough, what is wrong? Iron Mouse asked with a grin. It's the belief in my heart. Faith. Ha 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 ha, wait a minute, Iron Mouse laughed for a while, and suddenly noticed that the few tiberium crystals stuck in Chen chest had become several times smaller now, as if a few like a needle, it has been absorbed. When the Iron Rat saw this scene, his expression suddenly became a little strange, and then he laughed loudly, ha 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 ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Also a Forsaken, ha 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 ha. You are wrong, I will not be forgotten. Chen replied. No. No. You will. You will. Ha 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 ha. Iron Mouse couldn't breathe. You will. When those people find out that you are different, you think what will happen? Even your most loyal subordinates will leave you immediately. Ha 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 ha. In their eyes, the Forsaken are not human. As he spoke, his smile gradually became ferocious, but you won't see that day anymore. Tai Long, General Tai Long already knows everything. You won't live to that day. Ha 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 ha. Chen pulled out the tiberium crystals on his arms and chest and threw them on Iron Mouse. Iron Dragon. It's fine if he doesn't come, if he comes, he will know my strength. Iron Mouse's breathing became rapid, internal organs ruptured, massive blood loss and concussion had brought his life to an end. No. You don't know, the power of Iron Dragon, General, Army. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 168. 167 Exceed. Yi hurried over, hugged Chen bleeding arm, looked at him pitifully. Dad. Chen expression was not good looking at all. He asked coldly, why did you run out suddenly? I want, happy. Yi's language expression is not very fluent, and she can only roughly express her meaning. When she looked at Chen wound, tears immediately flowed like a broken bead curtain come down. I'm sorry. Chen nodded, patted Yi's head and said, you can't do this in the future, you have to be obedient, you know? Yeah. Yi nodded heavily in agreement. When we go back, we will be fine to copy 100 pages of the dictionary. Chen Yuyan said with a straight face, without any hint of being spoiled. Yi's beautiful eyes widened immediately, and a desperate expression appeared on her face, but she took another look at Chen Yuyan's wound, and her mouth pouted in grievance, so she nodded slightly. Only then did Chen Yuyan laugh, and he said, if you can finish it on time, I'll take you to a fun place. As soon as Yi's eyes lit up, he immediately jumped up for joy. I like it. Then she threw herself into Chenyuyan's arms, ignoring the blood from his wounds on her body, just rubbing against his arms. When it comes to fun, Chenyuyan has a plan. Anyway, now that the 7-day cooling time has come, he can use the summoning function again immediately. This time, he was going to summon the Wolf Pack team and Murphy's D. Duval, a total of 8 people. By the way, the former U.S. Delta team, after breaking with Umbrella Corporation, reorganized the Wolf Pack team, and Hank, the only remaining member of the U.S. Alpha team, also joined it. Summoning 8 of them this time would cost Chenyuyan a lot of points. But it's definitely a worthwhile investment. Because Chenyuyan believed that after seeing their own stand in this world, they would definitely be very willing to join it. What is the most wonderful thing for those people in the U.S. who can do nothing but kill? Only war. And now Chenyuyan has a population of more than 1,000, an army of more than 1,000 B.O.Ws, military factories, mines, energy sources, and an armored force at any time. Where can you find such a basic disk in the world of Resident Evil? Even if you find it, you can't develop it, okay? God knows when the 5 hooligans will clean you up when they are in a bad mood. After waiting for them to come here, it wouldn't take too long to actually visit, and then Chenyuyan planned to take them to Iron Hammer Town for a stroll. According to Wang Ji, it is an industrial town, but there are also some shops and other things in the town. You can take the members of the Wolf Pack squad to go shopping, and learn about the customs of this world by the way. In fact, Chenyuyan really wanted to go to Torch City to have a look. It is said that it is the largest city nearby, and the things that can be seen there are absolutely different. But it takes nearly 3 hours to drive from Ruin City to Torch City, which is a bit far, so I can only talk about it later. With the death of Iron Rat, Junkrat became history. Now a large group of B.O.Ws are shuttling among the huts in the stronghold, catching and killing the fish that escaped the net one by one. When the killing went to the end, some members of the Junkrat gang finally chose to put down their weapons and surrender. There were almost 50 people who surrendered, and they were all taken to the open space in the center of the stronghold, kneeling in a row. Wang Jinsong, Drago, and Wang Ji came over with the soldiers of the Ruin Legion. Seeing those people, Wang Ji's expression changed, and he stepped back a few steps and said, "Brother Yan, be careful. They are mutants. If you get too close to them, you will be infected." Okay, it's not such an exaggeration. The mutants themselves are not contagious unless they come into close contact with them. Drago said something, and he turned to Chenyuyan and asked, "What are you going to do with them?" "The mutants are not contagious to us. People are full of hatred and it is impossible for them to integrate into our society. Let them go." Chenyuyan replied. Wang Ji immediately yelled, "Brother Yan, you have to be careful. They are mutants. Let them go today, and tomorrow they will call again." The corners of Chenyuyan's mouth turned up slightly. "Whenever they call, I will kill them again." As he spoke, he said to the captives, "I will let you go, but you still have one last job to do. Go and remove the bodies of the dead during this battle and put them here. I will perform the ritual of salvation for them." Excess. What is an excess? The prisoners all looked at each other in blank dismay. "Brother Yan, do you want to save even these mutants?" Wang Ji asked. Chenyuyan nodded and said, "Of course, all living beings are equal. Mutants are mutants because they have been eroded by tiberium. Such people need to be saved. I will wash away the tiberium on them. Lea pollution, let them go to another world of bliss with a clean body and soul." "Brother Yan, you, really?" Wang Ji's mouth moved, and the circles of his eyes turned red, obviously moved. The corpses of the deceased were quickly collected, and Chen Yuyan always thought that the Junkrat gang would be dominated by only 200 or 300 people. But now I know that if these women and children are counted, the Junkrat gang has more than 500 people in the ruins in the south of the city. But now most of these people have become corpses. Chen Yuyan raised his hands and muttered in his heart. A blue light descended from the sky, covering these corpses. He specially issued an order to the infinite base, prioritizing the absorption of the clothes on these corpses and the tiberium in their bodies, and finally began to absorb the biomass. So in everyone's eyes, they saw that the clothes on the corpses first disappeared, and then the tiberia in their bodies burst out one after another, suspended in midair and then gradually dissipated. At this time, although the bodies of these corpses were already in dilapidated condition, the tiberium in their bodies was indeed removed. Immediately afterwards, these corpses began to gradually melt in the blue light, turning into nothingness. The more than 50 captured Junkrat gang burst into tears immediately. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Chen Yuyan. Wang Ji and the soldiers of the Ruin Legion were once again shocked when they saw this scene. They also knelt on the ground and muttered words. After the ceremony was over, Chen Yuyan said to the captives, "Okay, let's go. Go back and tell Tai Long, I won't attack if people don't attack me, and if people attack me, I will attack." One of the captives hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Brother, you should run away. General Iron Dragon will not let you go, and, you are definitely not his opponent." The person next to him gave him a hand, and then the person shut up and took a deep look at Chen Yuyan. "I'm serious, run away. Get out of here." After speaking, the captives ran out of the stronghold. Chen Yuyan turned to Wang Ji and the others and said, let's go back." Wang Ji looked at the backs of the prisoners, and asked, "Brother Yan, who is that Iron Dragon? It's our future enemy. Are you afraid? With the expansion of our power, we will only encounter enemies more terrifying than the Junkrat gang and Iron Dragon." Chen Yuyan said. Wang Ji shook his head and said, "Brother Yan, as long as you are still here, we will follow you. You are a capable person, and we also want to live a good life with you, eat well and drink hot. If anyone comes to provoke us, let's just go back." Chen Yuyan smiled, "Look, we have already killed the Junkrat gang. Did you dare to imagine before? Soon, we will defeat Iron Hammer Town, we will defeat Iron Dragon, and even more people. We will let everyone we all know that the Legion of Ruin is not easy to mess with. We will have our own city, our own factory, and after you retire, you will have a happy home. So, follow me." The fifth update was achieved, and 19 chapters were updated in 3 days, with more than 44,000 words, which is almost the same. Next, the update will be back on track, with 3 updates on a daily basis and 2 updates on holidays. Let's talk about special circumstances. Leave a little time to prepare the materials for the next world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 169. 168 Start again. As soon as the task is completed, the Junkrat gang has been completely driven out of the ruined city. Mission reward, a lucky draw opportunity for level 3 and below. Do you want to draw now? Let's talk about it later. Chen Yuyan replied, and he started to ask Red Queen 00001 to clean up the battlefield here, especially those dead B.O.W corpses. These corpses all contained a large amount of T-virus, and it would be bad if it spread out. And with the passage of time, the number of B.O.Ws under him increased, and Chen Yuyan began to realize that among the several resources now, biomass is the most scarce. Among the main resources of the infinite base, stone is the simplest. The ruined city is full of ruins of buildings, and these ruins are recycled into stone. It's just that some buildings require a huge amount of stone, and this thing is a manual job. The metal is also relatively simple, because among the ruins, the steel bars of the buildings and the wreckage of a large number of cars are also metal. However, compared with stone materials, the stock of metal is less, and if we want to start building a large number of armored units in the future, we still have to find mine veins. Biomass is very troublesome, because the main source is various corpses, and there is no other source. Although in the ruined city, the remains of those decades ago are everywhere, but the biomass that can be obtained from these dry remains is very little, which has become the biggest constraint for him to mass-produce BOW. In contrast, obtaining tiberium crystals is relatively easy now, because this thing is everywhere, and the more difficult thing is that it needs to be refined into a liquid state. The ratio of this refining ranges from about 30:1 to 100:1, depending on the purity of the crystal. In fact, what Qinyuan is most grateful for now is the existence of tiberium crystals, because this resource is defined by the system as a highly versatile resource. In other words, it is omnipotent. It can be anything as long as it's processed. Including various rare metals, various derivative products, anything is fine. It can even be refined into gasoline. Of course, it would be too wasteful to refine tiberium crystals into gasoline, but according to Wang Jinsong, this was done before when the relevant technology was immature. It's just that gradually several major forces are developing engines that directly use refined tiberium as fuel, and this wasteful behavior has not continued. There are still many oil fields on the earth. For example, fuel oil can be bought in Torch City. Before that, dozens of barrels were found in Chi Wei's warehouse. This also keeps the tanks and armored vehicles in Qinyuan's hands from lying down. The system will provide a full tank of fuel including ammunition when the things are manufactured, but Qinyuan has to find a way to deal with the later wear and tear. And after the Junkrat gang was wiped out this time, there were actually hundreds of barrels of fuel in their stronghold. Naturally, Qinyuan accepted all these fuels with a smile, although there was no way to move them back to the Black Wolf base. And the infinite base system doesn't seem to recognize fuel as a new resource, so he can't use the infinite base's god-to-god resource instant transmission technology to collect it. Probably because from the perspective of the infinite base system, fuel is actually one of the products of tiberium. It's hard to imagine, if there is no tiberium, how many types of resources he needs to worry about now. It can definitely blow people's heads off. When Qinyuan and the group of soldiers started to walk back, they saw only a group of drone worker ants crawling over. They began to cut up the corpses of those B.O.Ws and carried them back. Ever since he decided to pretend to be a magic stick, Qinyuan thought about it later, and he could no longer openly use the collection function to recover B.O.W's corpse, otherwise, interested people would still get in touch. In this way, his magic stick will be ineffective, and maybe it will have the opposite effect. Sure enough, after seeing the worker ant drone carrying the corpse, Wang Ji and the others also became curious. "Brother Yan, what are these robot ants doing to move the monster's body back?" Wang Ji asked. "Bring it back to the base for decomposition, and then use it to produce new biological weapons," Qinyuan replied. Wang Ji nodded and didn't ask any more questions. However, I believe that this theory will spread quickly, and gradually it will become two different things from Qinyuan using blue light to super, CAI, speed, G, the corpse. But another disadvantage is that it is best not to use the collection function for other resources in front of people, but it doesn't matter. Because in the next stage, Qinyuan still plans to continue to increase the number of worker ant drone factories, and he does not need to do it himself to mine resources. It was several hours after returning to Helang base. As soon as they returned to the base, Wang Ji's soldiers immediately collapsed like a ball of mud, and their strength was gone. Sending Yi over to follow Wang Jinsong to copy the dictionary, Qinyuan called Wang Ji up to the back of the Black Wolf base, which was built in the primary clinic before. He still hasn't forgotten that Luo Cheng, who suffered burns all over his body during the Junkrat gang's first invasion, is still recuperating here. The doctors in the clinic have returned to Xingfu village, because now Luo Cheng doesn't need a doctor anymore. The main thing is daily care. There are 2 old nurses in their 40s who are taking care of him. Chen Yuyan came to the bed and looked at Luo Cheng, who was covered in bandages all over his body. Luo Cheng also saw him, but he still just lay there and said weakly, "Brother Yan, you are here. The Junkrat gang has been wiped out, and their leader, Iron Rat, is also dead." Chen Yuyan said. "Thank you, Brother Yan, for avenging me." Luo Cheng's tone was still very flat. For more than a week, he has been lying on the hospital bed, struggling with burns covering more than 80% of his body, and the pain in it is beyond words. And more importantly, it is the torment in the heart. The doctor told him that because of the previous burns, the tendons in his feet and right hand had atrophied, which meant that he would only be able to use his left hand in the future. Basically, it's trash. Just now when he hugged Chen Yuyan's thigh, it seemed that he still valued him very much, and he was about to usher in a new beginning, but in the end he encountered such a blow. For Luo Cheng, this blow was completely like falling into the abyss when he was about to reach the peak. This kind of psychological gap is definitely not something he, a foolish young man, can bear. Chen Yuyan looked at the many marks of being beaten and smashed in the ward, and knew in his heart that this was Luo Cheng venting before, but he didn't dare to smash things in front of him. "I hope you can recover as soon as possible, and then continue to be a member of the Ruin Legion," Chen Yuyan said. Luo Cheng turned his head to one side, and said flatly, "I'm useless. If Brother Yan can give you a bowl of leftovers in the future, I will be grateful." Chen Yuyan shook his head. "The Legion of Ruin doesn't raise waste, so if you want even a bowl of leftovers, you have to earn it yourself." "Then let me starve to death," Luo Cheng replied. "If you can still starve to death with the bowl and chopsticks in your hands, it can only be said that you are really a waste," Chen Yuyan said. "Where did I get the bowls and chopsticks with my mother's hands and feet useless?" Luo Cheng suddenly turned his head and growled sharply. But then, he saw something beside Chen Yuyan, and he was stunned. "Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. All Heavens Unlimited Base." Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 170. 169 New Rewards. Next to Chen Yuyan, there were a bunch of cyborg prosthetic limbs. This pile of mechanical prosthetics has no support, so they are just piled there, but Luo Cheng is very familiar with them. Because, this is Chi Wei's set of cyborg prosthetics. It was only then that Luo Cheng understood Chen Yuyan's meaning. It turned out that the bowl and chopsticks he was talking about was to give him the set of cyborg prosthetics. Want to know how expensive the set of cyborg prosthetics is? Back then Chi Wei was injured all over his body during the bombing of GDI, and his father gave him almost everything to equip him with such a set of equipment. You must know that the Black Wolf tribe controls a Tiberium refinery and has a very stable and considerable source of income. Even so, they almost emptied their entire family to buy it. "Yan, Brother Yan, Luo Cheng's lips trembled with excitement, and now he could barely utter a complete sentence. Chen Yuyan waved his hands and said, "During the Junkrat gang invasion, everyone was hiding, and you were the only one going forward. So, you deserve this set of equipment. Next, I have a few old friends who want to come over as a guest, and by the way, I will take you to Hammer Town, where there is a hospital that can complete the implantation of cyborg prosthetics. Now, you should take a good rest." Wang Ji also understood now what Chen Yuyan wanted him to come over, and he was also very excited. "Brother Yan, do you mean that we can also?" "That's right, I will never treat the soldiers who have shed blood for the Legion of Ruin. If you want to continue fighting, then I will equip you with cyborg prostheses. If you want to retire, you will also have a generous retirement pension. So don't worry, Go do it. Chenyuyan patted him on the shoulder, turned and left. Chenyuyan had just returned to the affiliated manufacturing station, when suddenly a holographic projection of a little girl in a red dress appeared in front of her eyes. She looked at Chenyuyan for a while, and then said, "Actually, even under your command, there are many strong people are more suitable for implanting cyborg prostheses than the disabled one just now, Master." After she finished speaking, she paused, and then said, "I'm Red Queen 00002, and I'm starting to take over the affairs of the Black Wolf base." Master. Except for the number, both the appearance of the holographic projection and the tone of the voice are exactly the same as the Red Queen 00001 at the Nuwa base. Chenyuyan's expression froze. I said, "Why are you talking like 00001, you are the master?" Red Queen 00001 has already conveyed your order to me, so I will naturally follow it. Master. Red Queen 00002 replied, "The same is true for Red Queen 00003, who is about to complete the mine." Master. Chenyuyan was completely speechless, and there was nothing he could do, so he had no choice but to stop entangled in this. Red Empress 00002, do you know? When Luo Cheng completes the implantation of the Believer 2 cyborg prosthesis, his explosive combat power will be far greater, far stronger than those who are strong. But according to the data simulation calculation, this is impossible. The strength of the body will not be changed by the spirit. Master. Red Queen 00002 said. So, you don't know enough about the human spirit. Sometimes the power that erupts from the spirit is stronger than the body. Chenyuyan smiled, and added in his heart, "As if you were using my quick-wit order come to ravage my spirit like. I will study this and prove you wrong, Master." Red Queen 00002 replied. The smile on the corner of Chenyuyan's mouth suddenly froze, and he laughed dryly and said, "Then you will be in charge of the construction of the Black Wolf base, and help Red Queen 00001 share part of the work." The logic is wrong. In fact, the computing power of Red Queen 00001 is enough to handle the unit control of the entire infinite base. Building more Red Queen hosts in the Black Wolf base and mining areas will reserve enough computing power for future expansion. It is a wise choice, Master. Red Queen 00002 said. No, it's actually just for the convenience of building buildings. Chenyuyan pushed her back. Are you denying the meaning of my existence? Master. Red Queen 00002 complained. How is it possible? I created you to make the best use of everything, and you will have a lot of busy days in the future. Chenyuyan said with a smile. I'm looking forward to that day. Master. After the Red Queen 00002 finished speaking, the holographic projection flashed and disappeared. Chenyuyan breathed a sigh of relief, and wiped away the sweat that didn't exist on his forehead. He found that chatting with the Red Queen was simply a kind of torture. But when he thought that when the host of the mining area would be completed in the near future, there would be 3 such poisonous little loli around him, and he felt as if the sky was about to fall. But wait a minute. The number behind the Red Queen was not added by myself, but added by the system during construction. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this shit is a 5-digit number. Is it possible that I will build 10,000 to 20,000 Red Queens in the future? Thinking of tens of thousands of Red Queens surrounding him, calling him Master, 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 Master while spitting out vicious tongues, this scene was so terrifying that Chenyuyan could not help but stagger and almost fell to the ground. No, no, no. In the future, the construction of the Red Queen host must be restricted. Chenyuyan shook his head. Now he needs something to cheer him up. He hurriedly said in his mind, System. Draw the reward for defeating the Junkrat gang. Request received. Drive the Junkrat gang out of the ruined city. The reward is a random reward of level 3 and below, and the drawing starts now. As before, Countless pictures flashed across Chen mind. However, unlike the previous lottery draws, what Chen saw this time were all very ordinary gadgets, and there were no high-end items such as spaceships. Congratulations, you have drawn a level 3 building, NS-4 robot factory. NS-4 robot. What is this? Chen thought for a while, and was a little impressed but not deeply. Just at this time, news came from the mining area that Red Queen 00003's mainframe was completed, so Chen simply asked Red Queen 00002 to find an area on the Black Wolf base to build the NS-4 robot factory. With the help of the Red Queen, now he doesn't need to work hard to plan the construction of the building. The Red Queen will help him complete the planning of the base layout and leave enough passages in more and more buildings. The NS-4 robot factory has a large scale, requiring up to 20,000 tons of stone. This made Chen, who had just built a new tiberium refining plant with a 2-level production line in the mining area, find that his resource stock was tight again. It will take 5 hours to complete the building, and Chen doesn't want to be idle like this. He said to the system again, "System, use the summoning function. Summon the Wolf Pack team from the world of Resident Evil, plus Murphy's D. Duval." Request received. The Wolf Pack team includes Rupert, Hank, Ghost, Victor, Four Eyes, Beltway, and Bertha among them. Summoning Hank requires 800 points, Rupiah requires 600 points, and other members need points 500, Murphy's D. Duval needs 200 points, a total of 4,100 points are spent. Please pay. Confirm the payment. As soon as Chen finished speaking, he saw his points drop wildly. He originally had 14,250 points left, but now he only has 10,150 points left. Distressed. At the same time, 8 white rays of light sprinkled in front of Chen, and immediately after that, 8 people appeared instantly. Thanks to Malagus for the reward of 100 starting coins.